Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at this Hitch Cargo Carrier from Curt and see how it interacts with our 2024 Jeep Wagoneer. Now, a Hitch Cargo Carrier is a great way to transport items that maybe either don't fit or you just don't want going with you inside the vehicle. Things could be like gas cans, paint cans, camping stuff that's dirty from the weekend, any number of things, maybe a big water jug or cooler that you don't want leaking inside the vehicle. Or it's really good for carrying some heavier items that you don't want to store on a roof rack, especially on a vehicle like the Wagoneer that really is actually pretty tall and not easy to get things up and down from. So if you have something like a generator, you're going to be much more comfortable getting it into this and transporting it than you would up on your roof. So this Hitch Cargo Carrier from Curt has a 500-pound capacity. However, you do want to double check your owner's manual and see what the tongue weight capacity is of the vehicle and the factory hitch. Whichever number is lower, that is the limit to your weight capacity. This is going to be 24 inches by 60 inches, so a nice footprint back there to really be able to get a lot of nice things in. And we're going to have a pretty high wall at around 5 3/4 inches. And that wall and this rail going around and down here are going to give you places that you're going to be able to put your tie downs, your anchor points for your tie downs that you have back here, just keeping everything in your basket secure. So this is going to be made of steel. It's going to have a matte powder coat finish to it that's going to help out with any corrosion or rust resistance. It's also going to give us a mesh floor, and that's great because that means any liquids or debris isn't going to collect inside the carrier. It's just going to fall through as you're going down the road. And one of the things that I really like about this cargo carrier in particular is how many kind of support beams are going across it. There's a lot of Hitch Cargo Carriers out there that really just have the main shank down the middle, and they don't offer much extra support as we get toward the edges of the carrier. This, however, has some support beams in it, so it should make for a very stable load. Now, this is of course going to be leaving a bit of a footprint behind the vehicle, and if you have items stacked up on here, in all likelihood, you're going to have some blockage coming out of your rear view camera. So it is pretty important to know what kind of footprint this is leaving behind the vehicle. And right here to the furthest point from the bumper, we're at 34.5 inches. So just keep in mind, you've got almost 3 feet extra back here to account for whenever you're parallel parking or backing into a tighter space. The other thing that we want to take a look at is our ground clearance. Now, we do have a raised shank on this, so it does come up a little bit higher. That's going to be good for our ground clearance, which we're going to have at 24.5 inches. So a little more than 2 feet of ground clearance, and that's great. As close as this sits to the vehicle, it doesn't worry me too much if I come across a steep incline or driveway. That should be plenty of clearance, but it is something that you want to keep in mind. Now, that raised shank, while offering us more ground clearance, also brings everything up a bit higher. So whatever the weight is of the items that you're putting in here, you're going to want to be comfortable getting it up over 33.5 inches in order to lift it and drop it into the tray. Now, one of the things about Hitch Cargo Carriers that I come across all the time is depending on how you load it and what items you have, it might be a little heavier to one side or the other or whatever it might be, but they do have a tendency to move around and rattle a whole lot as you're going down the road. For me, my favorite solution is going to be the eTrailer anti-rattle hitch collar. So we could take something that's moving around in the shank quite a bit. We can get that tightened down by turning this knob, and what that does is push down a wedge that's going to pin the shank of the cargo carrier to the wall of your hitch receiver, and then we're going to end up with a really solid connection back here, and that's just going to make for a more comfortable and secure ride. So this Hitch Cargo Carrier from Curt is an excellent choice for your 2024 Jeep Wagoneer. Just the thing that you want to keep in mind is you've got almost 3 feet that you're not going to need to be able to lift up in order to get your items in here. That would be the only downside to it is just depending on how heavy the objects are that you're putting in here. But whatever that is, it's still going to be easier than getting it up onto a roof rack. So if you decide that the CURT Hitch Cargo Carrier is the one for you and you get it and you have the opportunity to use it a few times, please share what your experience with it is in the comments below. We would love to share your story with our other neighbors so they can make the best decision for themselves. Once again, this is Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.